Hey guys, Dijon here. In the TV and film portion of episode 128 of the Mustercast, we discussed the Tron Ares and Mortal Kombat 2 trailers and the casting for Zelda and Link in the live action Legend of Zelda movie. We also give our spoiler filled review of Superman and a spoiler free review of Fantastic Four The First Steps. If you're only here for the reviews, feel free to go into the description and click the timestamps to skip to the section you're interested in. Thanks for watching. Moving on to TV and film, we have our second episode with Christian being a regular part of the podcast in this section. So, what movies and TV shows you've been watching lately? You don't have to get super into detail into any of them, I guess, because we're gonna definitely have a long conversation about some of them after we talk about
Yeah.
some recent trailers. So I want to save some of those longer discussions for the end.
Right. Um, Recently, compared to last time, I saw two films. So I saw Superman, which I definitely want to talk about, and I saw F1, and thought that they were two very well made films, and they occupy very different lanes. For me, F1 definitely fulfilled just solid sports film. Also, just for me, like a very canon event movie that is very important for me is Tron Legacy. So I've
Mm.
always been a fan of Joseph Kosinski, and I always thought that he had like a very distinct and cool visual style, whether with Tron Legacy, Oblivion. He just always had a cool visual style, and it was cool seeing him approach the sports film.
I heard that
And
he was actually
even though
supposed to direct Ford vs Ferrari. But
really,
yeah,
that I didn't know, and it's very interesting. Um, because I feel like he would do that very well. I feel like he he kind of reminds me of like a kind of like a John Ford or like I don't want to say a Spielberg, but kind of like that traditional like American like blockbuster filmmaker. He just kind of yeah, it's I feel like there's comparisons. Like you can make comparisons, but he definitely just occupies that space of doing like American films, but with like a sense of polish and a sense of style that's very distinct. And I feel like he has cornered like a very interesting market. Um, yeah, I feel like he would have done Ford v Ferrari very interestingly because yeah, he just really he's nailed that very like it's a quality that's hard to put a finger on. But yeah, it's just kind of classic Hollywood, just well made, well shot filmmaking type stuff. And apparently he's doing a Miami Vice film with a screenplay written by Tony Gilroy, which
oh
is
wow,
I'm very interested. Yeah, yeah, like I'm very interested in that movie with Kaczynski having like a very smooth, very grand directorial style and with Tony Gilroy being Tony Gilroy, I'm very interested in what that script could be. So or what that film could be, period. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, overall, thought F1 was cool. And even though the script was like very if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It was very well directed. I thought the performances were cool and it was well shot. And Hans Zimmer definitely watched Challengers. Um, is very electronic, very dance based soundtrack. But I thought it was cool. I thought it was very, very cool. Um, as far as television goes, uh, I don't know how I failed to mention it a couple weeks ago when we talked, but I watched The Rehearsal season 2, and that show, just like the first season of the show, I don't think there's any show like it. I feel like Nathan Fielder is just very good at just absurdity emboldened. in reality. Like it's this interesting juxtaposition of like, is this real? What isn't real? But that juxtaposition is what makes it cool. Um, yeah, it's just very, very cool. Um, so yeah, I just watched the rehearsal season two. Um, haven't watched anything like it. It's funny. It's very, don't want to say disorienting, but it's just the entire time you're just like, huh, what, huh? And when you think it can't beat, and when you think it can't beat anything, it gets even crazier. Like Nathan Fielder is very great at that.
Yeah, I've always heard of the
Yeah,
rehearsal, never watched it myself. I hear it can be very like
it,
uncomfortable to watch
yes, absolutely.
because it's just like
But it's
real
like it's
life
that
cringy scenarios.
yes, um, and yeah, it's like real life cringy scenarios, and but there's also this, I don't know, it's like it's chaotic, and there is some cringe factor there, and along with that, there's some sort of, it's a deep layer of creativity and something very pure about it. Like it's comedic, and with it being edited, even though it's not scripts written, it's scenario based. So it's like it feels real in cinema verite, but it also feels controlled to an extent. So it's like an interesting mix of like it feels on the fly, but it also feels curated. So it feels cinematic, but it also feels like you're watching something you're not supposed to watch. It's a very interesting line that he that he walks on. So I really enjoyed the rehearsal season two. Um, just this is just a quick plug, but it's a great filmmaker. His name is Cameron A. Granger, and he made a film called Before I Let Go. And the premise is that it's a mockumentary slash documentary, and the premise is that giants came in and destroyed like a neighborhood in Ohio, like a predominantly black neighborhood, but also in real life that neighborhood was destroyed and then was ultimately gentrified. So it's like they used giants to talk about something that actually happened. And the interviews and the talking heads are, some are fake and some are real. And it's like a line gets blurred. So it's like, I feel like stuff like that has been very interesting to me. Things where reality, what's fiction and what's fact gets blurred to the point that you can't tell the difference anymore. Um, but yeah, overall, that's been what I've been watching, and that's the type of wave I've been on. But yeah, just it's been a lot of cool stuff recently coming out. What about you?
For me, I recently I rewatched Sinners for the fourth time. This time at home on HBO Max with subtitles. Sometimes you forget when you're watching movies in theaters that you're not watching it with subtitles. I tend to watch things with subtitles. So watching it with
Same.
subtitles this time, I'm noticing words that I didn't notice before, like things that I misheard while watching it in theaters the three times I saw it, and I'm realizing, oh, I didn't realize that's what they said, which is a very interesting way to watch it. To come from my own home, I was watching it alongside Blind Wave, a reaction YouTube channel that I subscribe to on YouTube, and also subscribe to their Patreon. And at the tier I'm at, you can like watch an entire thing with them full length reaction. So I like queued that up
Mm,
and watched alongside
okay.
them, which is a very fun thing to do, and I do it pretty frequently. I watch some shows that either I've seen before and I just like watching them watch it, or there's been a few shows that I'll sometimes use them as a way to see if I like a show. I like watch the first episode alongside them, and then if I like it, I'll watch it by myself. But I also saw Superman a second time. But we're going to talk about that towards the very end. For now, let's talk about some recent trailers and news in TV and film. So it's funny that you mentioned both
Yeah.
Tron Legacy and Challengers, because we got a second trailer for Tron Ares, and it looks
Yes.
good from a visual standpoint, and the music by Nine Inch Nails is sounding real good so far. which of course
Yeah.
they did the soundtrack for Challenges.
Mhm.
But yeah, based on this second trailer, which I assume you watched it, uh,
I did.
it seems like they're bringing, like in that first initial trailer when we talked about it very briefly, like over a month ago at this point. I wasn't sure how to feel about them bringing like the Tron world into the real world. Like the thing I always liked about Tron is kind of like that isolation of the just like one person going into the digital world and having to experience, or I like things like Tron Uprising where you're just experiencing the experience of the people within that digital world. Um, but with
Right.
Tron Ares, they're it seems like the military are bringing the Tron world to the real world for military use. And I never really thought about how topical a Tron movie is with its, heavy focus
Right.
on AI and digital worlds, a la the metaverse and things like that. I never really thought about it in that
Yes.
context, but that makes a lot of sense, and they reference both in the trailer. But what were your
Hmm.
thoughts?
Yeah. Definitely what you're saying in regards to the aspect of relevancy with Tron, with just topics like you're saying with the metaverse and with like artificial intelligence. Um, when I've heard about the premise of like this character Ares or just elements of Tron being in the real world in general, I was like, are they gonna Smurf Tron? Like, is it gonna be that Smurfs film with Neil Patrick Harris? Um, and I kind of became nervous, and then I looked into who the filmmaker was and noticed that it wasn't Joseph Kosinski.
Yeah, it's Joaquin Roning, who worked on
Yeah,
Pirates of the Caribbean's Dip Man Tell No Tales and the Maleficent movie with Angelina Jolie.
right. Which is like an interesting filmography. Um,
Two Disney movies, and
so
now he's working on a
I,
third Disney movie.
right, yeah. So, and I can't speak fully because I haven't seen Dead Men Tell No Tales and I haven't seen Maleficent. But I don't want to say I was worried, but I was interested because again, Tron Legacy is one of my favorite films ever. Um, but yeah, I'm interested in how they're gonna pull off the real world aspect and whether it will be we live in a society or like how are they going to interrogate just like just the military aspect or like how we use like technology to engage in violence or engage in war. Like it seems like they're going to try to get into that stuff. Um,
I feel like it also
yeah.
opens the door
Overall,
up for like some potentially interesting sequels. I know it's a bit early to say that when a movie's not even coming out. It comes out October 24th, a couple months from now. But like, if the world now becomes
right.
aware of the existence of this digital world, do we then get like either like maybe some like shows or another movie where it does become like the metaverse and people are having this like mass exodus where they can enter the Tron world and we're getting a bunch of people from the real world entering that world? That could be interesting.
Good. And it's definitely a different direction for Tron because, everything you said, Tron is so based around the immersion of being in another universe. Like Tron, if Disney
It's
ever
very much
really
an isekai.
expanded on it, like, no, for sure. Like, it's definitely an isekai, but without Truck Kun. It is an isekai for sure. Um, like, no one gets run over by a truck, but it is an isekai for sure. Um, and so much of it is just based around world building and just like a lot of just different factions, different groups, a lot of lore. And because the Disney, Star Wars, and Marvel deal happened, Tron was in development hell forever. And I feel like the potentiality for world building there wasn't really done. So with them going into the outside world, I'm like, are we going to lose some of that lore and world building and kind of the escapism that made Tron cool by bringing it into a real world environment? And that kind of had me worried. But looking into who the cinematographer is, blanking on his name right now, but he did the cinematography for Tron Legacy, and he also did cinematography for a fair amount of David Fincher's work too. And like, feel like he's definitely a key part in Tron Legacy looking as good as it did. He's going to be doing the cinematography for Tron Ares, so that has me a bit excited. Um, so based off of the trailer, I know visually it's going to look cool. I know visually it's going to be an interesting film, and I know the music is going to be cool. And yeah, like those aspects have me interested in the film. I
Jeff
think that the casting is interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Cronenweth is the cinematographer.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious how they'll handle like the last movie. Are they just gonna ignore it, or like is Flynn gonna be involved somehow? I know they're gonna have his dad in the movie. You know, they're bringing back Jeff Bridges, but are they bringing back Tron too? Like are they gonna touch on any of the past movies like Legacy did? Like, you know, Legacy, it's in the title. There's a level of legacy there, and like paying respect to what came before, and like being a true sequel. Will this be an actual sequel that, you know, calls back to the first two movies, or will it try to be its own thing and like be very isolated? I kind of hope not, or even if it is, that doesn't leave the door closed for the future for them to bring back the cast from the first movie or the second movie.
Yeah. Right. Because like, is Sam and Cora gonna pop up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this really going to? How many years is this after Tron Legacy? Is it real
Yeah,
time? Like,
exactly.
has it been 20, 10 years or 15 years? Has it been 20 or 30 years? Like, in regards to the time frame of this film and how it relates to the ultimate like lore of everything, it's not very clear. I feel like that'll definitely, maybe it'll be given with time, but
Yeah, I mean,
um,
something that I really hope
yeah.
happens if this does well is we get a third season for Tron Uprising. Tron Uprising was such a good show. I will never stop singing the praises
Yeah.
of Tron Uprising from the roofs. It was so good. And if that happens,
Yeah.
and if they're able to bring back two now iconic um, animators and animation directors, uh, Robert
Mm-hmm.
Valley and Alberto Mielgo, who have gone on to do great things. Alberto Mielgo was I think, the art director on the first Spider-Verse film. He does a lot of incredible short films. He did two episodes for Love, Death, and
Right.
Robots. One for the first season, which is still
Mm-hmm.
to this day, I think, the best episode of the entire show, called The Witness. And I think he did one for the third season called The Jabaro. And Robert Valley did three episodes for the show. I watched his most recent one in the fourth season called 400 Boys. And he did one called Zima Blue in the first season, and he did
Mm-hmm.
another one in like the second or third season. Like, they're both incredible, and if one or both, most likely Robert Valley, because the art style of the show itself is based off of his art style that he continues to use in all of
Right.
his other like work that he directs. Like, that would be incredible. Like, just a return of that show would be great, and the cast of that show is great. Like, they have the dude who plays Tron in the movies playing Tron
Yeah.
in the show, and then they got Elijah Wood playing the main character. um,
Right.
it's and a lot of, other than Jeff Bridges, a lot of the like actors from the movies actually return. Like Olivia Wilde plays her character in the show. um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was a real good show. Unfortunately, one of the like where the show left off, it left off with like one of the a character played by Lance Reddick, who, you know, unfortunately passed away recently, having this big moment. So if it
Right.
comes back, they'd have to recast him. But otherwise, there's an incredible cast of people they can bring back. But yeah, David Arquette voiced the character. Reginald
Very.
Vell
It's a very just
Reginald Vell Johnson voiced one of the main
original
characters.
Val Johnson.
Like it's it's a very star-studded cast. Lance Henriksen was the main villain. Yeah, I'm.
And I didn't know this. Aaron Paul was in the cast.
Was he? Who did he play?
Yes. He voiced Cyrus.
Oh wow, I didn't know Aaron Paul was in there.
Yeah, character named Cyrus. It's a very crazy cast
Yeah.
for this show.
But before we move on, I did want to mention like the only thing holding this movie back, other than what we've already said, that we're like kind of concerned about, is the fact that Jared Leto is the lead. Because I've only heard bad things about that guy, and like it just, I think also it's it's hard to say fortunately or unfortunately. He's supposedly part of the reason why this is even a thing. Like he pushed really hard for it, and I'm like, cool, thanks, but you didn't need to star in it. You could have just been a producer.
Yeah,
You could have
I
got
agree.
somebody else could have started it,
Yeah,
and that kind of like makes me a bit
yeah, I don't.
apprehensive as well. Like I'm ultimately still going to watch it, but I really wish he wasn't in it.
Same. Finding out that he was the protagonist, I kind of felt weary because just so many stories about him being a weirdo on
Mm-hmm.
set and just being overall very just discomforting. I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I feel like the combination of Jared Leto, the real world setting, I'm I'm interested for how this film would be. I'm going to see it because it's Tron,
Mm.
and the fact that this film is even happening is a miracle.
But moving on to
Yeah,
the trailer for Mortal Kombat 2. We got the very first full trailer. Um and did you ever watch the first one that came out like 2022? It was
I
like
didn't watch the first
yeah, it
one.
was that period of time where movies were being released both in theaters and on digital platforms. So this was on HBO Max and it released in theaters. I watched it on HBO. And it was it was alright. It was kind of whatever. It wasn't
Okay,
very good. It wasn't very bad. It was kind of just weird, and they made some very baffling decisions. But based on this trailer alone so far, this movie feels like what the first movie should have been. Because we're getting the actual Mortal Kombat tournament, and it's focusing on the incredible cast of existing and iconic characters instead of a boring original one. Because it's very clear that there was a studio mandate for them to make an original audience surrogate character for the first movie named Cole Young, who was so boring and so uninteresting and very easily could have just been Johnny Cage. Um, and
yeah,
it's proof that the higher ups over there didn't know what they were doing, but what they were talking about when it came to Mortal Kombat. Because Mortal Kombat, it's a fighting game franchise, so it's known for having very iconic characters. And there's at least four characters they could have chosen to be the Anya surrogate characters. It could have been Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, or Jax, or all four, really. But
right.
instead, they decided to make a new character who was very, very boring. Um, Also, they did this really weird thing where they tied every character's abilities to this weird arcana system that people who are chosen for the tournament get. If you're marked with the dragon tattoo, that's the Mortal Kombat logo, to participate in the tournament, and if you have that tattoo, you also get powers, and that's how they explain Jax getting robot arms, which is like what? It's how they explain him getting robot arms, Sonya
That's
Blade
how.
being able to shoot purple energy, Liu Kang's fire, Kung Lao's hat, and it's like no, that's stupid.
Do we need that?
No, because Jax, his it's such a simple explanation, and we see it in the movie. He loses his arms. Sub Zero freezes his arms, breaks
Right.
them. He has no arms anymore. In the games, the military just gives him robot arms. Simple explanation. No man. Why does he need? Why do you need a magical explanation for how he gets robot arms? The military just gives him robot arms because he lost his arms. That simple. Also, Sonya
Right.
Blade, originally in the games, it was like never fully explained why she shoots purple energy, but later on in the games, they gave her these gauntlets. And like the more military focused characters of Sonya and Jax, they get their abilities from technology in combination with their, fighting capabilities. Liu Kang, there's an explanation why he has fire powers. You do that. You don't do this stupid arcana thing. Same thing with Kano's laser eye. They made that magic when in the game he just lost an eye and had it replaced with the mechanical eye that can shoot lasers. It's like, what are you doing? Also, Kung Lao's head. It's just skill. It's not a superpower. He's just really skilled at throwing his sharp hat.
He's just good.
It's
Yeah,
they made a bunch of
but
really weird
it's just
decisions.
yeah. It's like I was watching a video from Godzilla Mendoza, and he was talking about the Fantastic Four, like Tim Story films, and like you mentioned, and it's a thing that a lot of people have had a complaint about, but how in Rise of the Silver Surfer they made Galactus a planet. Um, it's
The
like they
problem.
make
Oh,
Galactus
okay.
like a angry cosmic cloud because audiences wouldn't understand a giant that wants to eat planets in a world where a rock man and a man that catches on fire and survive and a stretchy man and an invisible woman exist. It's like it's this weird thing where higher ups and a lot of people in the films, or not a lot of people in the film space, but mainly higher ups, don't trust audiences or think that if audiences see something like Kano shooting lasers out of his eyes, that they're going to be like, this is ridiculous, even though it's Mortal Kombat. Like, and like embrace the camp,
It's also
embrace the unrealistic
like one of the most
aspects.
popular video games on the face of planet Earth. People know these characters.
Right.
Like even people who don't play video games know these characters. That's how iconic they are.
Mhm. Right.
The like and the Arcana ability that the main character Cole Young got was literally plot armor. I am not joking. At the very last second, when Goro was about to rip his arms off, he was enveloped in this armor that gave him powers, and I was like, "There's no way somebody thought this was a good idea to give the main character
Literal
literal
plot
plot
armor.
armor." It is insane. Also,
A
the
main character that no one knows.
yeah. Also, the actor playing
Mhm.
Raiden didn't really leave much of a mark in the first movie, but that was before I watched Shogun, which he's in. And now I'm excited to
Okay.
see his performance in this one because in the first movie, I was happy that they made Raiden Japanese and they actually call him Raiden, which is the like correct Japanese pronunciation of that name versus the very like American people who made a video game and saw the name and decided to call him Raiden. um,
Right.
but I'm used to seeing Raiden have such a more demanding presence and voice, and the dude playing him now, uh, Tadanobu Asano didn't really have that, but now after seeing Shogun and really liking his performance in that, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give you another chance, and hopefully they give you more to do because they just didn't give Raiden a lot to do in that movie. So hopefully this time
Right.
they actually let that man act because he could act.
Right.
But yeah, this is coming out October as well on the 24th. But last
Okay.
in kind of just recent trailers and news, we have the announcement of the Legend of Zelda live action movie casting revealed by Shigeru Miyamoto on Nintendo's Twitter account. He said, "This is Miyamoto. I am pleased to announce that for the live action film of The Legend of Zelda, Zelda will be played by Bo Bragginson and Link by Benjamin Eve Ainsworth. I'm very much looking forward to seeing both of them on the big screen. The film is scheduled to be released in theaters on May 7th, 2027. Thank you for your patience." Yeah. So I think that the
Yeah.
actors, at the very least, look the part. And I'm glad that they are relatively
Yeah.
unknown so that they can become the characters. Um, versus a well-known actor's fame kind of overshadowing the characters they're playing, like the Tom Holland fan casting. A lot of people have for Link, even though it's mostly joking. But what are your
Exactly.
thoughts?
Hmm. Yeah, I think the process of doing unknowns, I think that that is cool. I think that going with unknowns, it allows them to just the way that it's gonna be fresh seeing them on the screen. It's gonna be fresh seeing Link and Zelda be represented in live action. So I feel like that was a cool way of going for it instead of doing like Timothy Chalamet as Link. I feel like it's a very interesting route to go. Another fan casting I saw a lot for Zelda was Hunter Schafer.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just a lot of folks had like fan casting and like just casting ideas in general for the film. So I think it is interesting to go with unknowns.
Yeah. Also, if you don't know, uh,
So yeah,
the movie is being directed by Wes Ball, who's most famous for the Maze Runner
oh,
movies, but he also did the most recent
okay,
Planet of the Apes movie, which I've heard is really good. But also, over a decade
yeah,
ago, he randomly said on Twitter that the next James Cameron Avatar style movie that perfectly blends live action and CGI animation should be The Legend of Zelda. And lo and behold, he's directing a live action Zelda movie that will hopefully do just that. We know
that's
that he
cool.
knows how to work with extremely detailed and sophisticated, CGI in interaction with live action because of Planet of the
Right.
Apes. And he's also very much obsessed with
Hmm.
animation and has like tried to get a bunch of different animated projects off the ground. So it seems like, despite the fact this movie will be live action, he very much has respect for animation and probably understands that people probably want this to be animated. Like myself, I would have much rather preferred this movie be fully animated, preferably in 2D in a style maybe
Right.
trying to mimic almost the Ghibli films, or if possible, well, they don't do this, but if Studio Ghibli would be willing to just straight up make a Zelda movie, that would be sick. But also, I would have accepted
Right.
3D as well. Like, I would have preferred this to be animated. But if he can actually do that perfect melding of live action and CGI, then, I'll be happy with that as long as it's a good story.
Right. Um, yeah, Westball being the director is very interesting. Um, I'm vaguely familiar with the Planet of the Apes films, and Westball took following Matt Reeves, and like he really did his own thing with the films. So I feel like coming from Planet of the Apes and coming from Maze Runner, which definitely is based around just like sci-fi concepts, like raw Earth concepts. I don't want to say prehistoric, but like versions of Earth that are kind of run down or somewhat natural. I feel like Maze Runner definitely has some like natural undertones. So I feel like him doing a Zelda film could be interesting. And I feel like at the least it will be well shot. So, and also a lot of like the Zelda stuff. Oh, no problem. Like a lot of the Zelda stuff is greatly based around like just kind of storybook stuff or like hero's journey stories. So I feel like Zelda lends itself well to narrative and especially film narrative. So I feel like with the right sauce, this could be great. I feel like this is possible to be something very good.
For sure.
So yeah, I'm interested. Also, I love how I like how straightforward it's just like this is Miyamoto. This is the cast for the film. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, he's
It's a
always
very
very
Nintendo
straightforward.
way of announcing it.
That's
Yeah,
definitely Nintendo for
which
you.
is cool.
Moving into Superman by James Gunn from 2025. So you've seen it, and I've seen it a second time. So
Yeah.
let's get into your spoiler-free thoughts to start of the movie overall.
Yeah, as far as spoiler free thoughts, I definitely agree with the concept that this is James Gunn's Superman. In regards to just like a lot of the concepts here, how sci-fi it is in regards to how it uses, I don't want to say DC B-list characters, but it uses DC characters that aren't as unknown. It's definitely, there's some counterculture aspects in there in regards to like it's, I feel like James Gunn has always had like a love for like the outsiders, or like I don't want to say the weirdos, but like the characters that aren't,
I mean, he would say the weirdos.
don't have the, yeah, he would say the weirdos. He would say the weirdos for sure, but like characters that don't have the magnifying glass on them or the spotlight on them that often. And I feel like this portrayal of Superman definitely fits into that. Um, Especially like with the usage of like certain characters. Overall, definitely just a different type of superhero movie that really trusts the audience, especially in regards to a lot of the concepts that are thrown at the screen, especially in regards to how unabashedly just like, I don't want to say silly, but it
Almost campy.
it yeah, campy almost. Like there is some sci-fi like B movie aspects or concepts here. And for me it works. Like I think it works very well. And it was very refreshing to watch a film that is just like unabashedly a comic book movie. And I don't know how to describe it. I've never seen a film that embraced Clark Kent's ability to go to and fro fast.
Yeah.
Like it's just things happen back to back to back to back. One second he's in Fortress of Solitude, one second he's in Metropolis, one second he's at his parents' house, one second he's back in Metropolis again, fighting a kaiju. It's just it's very day in a life to an extent. Like it's a very fast movie.
Yeah.
And I
There's
could
been
understand some people being very yeah.
it's just in
I
regards
can understand some yeah.
to the day in a life aspect. Supposedly, not supposedly, there was supposed to be title cards of the days of the week in between, like
Yeah.
certain scenes, and that's recently been revealed, and that it was cut out because test audience didn't like it. So there's a lot of people on Twitter being like, "Oh, test audiences suck. They don't like fun." Because the best parts of
Right.
the very first DC movie that he made, the Suicide Squad, were the title cards. There were some absolutely like jaw dropping title cards in that movie that were the names of the locations that they were going to that were incredible. I don't know if you ever seen the Suicide Squad, but you should definitely watch it. It's like awesome.
Okay.
And I can imagine them making that canon, especially since Peacemaker is now in this canon. Um, but like, yeah, it's
Right.
that movie's really good, and I wish he would have had those title cards in this, and like maybe they add them back for like the DVD version or something. But yeah, you know let's just get into spoilers. We had our spoiler free discussion last week. You just gave your initial thoughts, but let's feel free to fully get into spoilers. So spoiler alert: if you haven't seen Superman by now, we're gonna talk about everything, including um, you know potential for the future. So yeah, what are your spoiler filled thoughts?
Yeah. As far as like my overall reception, I left the theater thinking that I potentially almost loved it.
Mm,
It's been a minute since I watched a film that was just like it was just unabashedly a comic book movie, and it felt like I was watching a comic book to an extent. Not just stylistically, but in regards to how things just kind of pile on top of each other in different situations, layer. How there's just not a lot of explanation of things. Things just they just kind of happen. Like Lois is flying a spaceship now because she is. Like it's very comic booky, and I don't want to say it's unserious because there is dramatic weight here, but it's just very light to an extent. It's very airy. Um, there is some dramatic heft here, but I don't know. It's just it. I don't find myself asking a lot of questions from the film. Like it's just I can't describe the feeling that this film gave me. I really really enjoyed it.
yeah,
Um,
but I guess to kind of
yeah.
get into some spoiler filled specifics, let's just start at the end with like one of the biggest spoilers. Supergirl, she showed up at the very end, drunk, came crashing through the Fortress of Solitude to pick up Crypto, which is setting up her upcoming movie, which is currently filming. Simply titled Supergirl, but it is adapting storyline from the comic Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which previously was the title of the movie, but they decided to drop the Woman of Tomorrow portion. The comic was written by Tom King and drawn by Billy Keith Evely. Very incredible book. I remember reading it when it came out and going, "Oh, this would make a great movie." Lo and behold, it's the second movie they're making and releasing. So that's definitely exciting. We also got a poster for the movie, if you didn't see that, with a Supergirl standing in front of a poster of Superman's emblem that says "Look out," which was the tagline for the Superman movie, or it says "Look up," which was the tagline for the Superman movie, and then it has "up" crossed out with "out" written in front of it, making it seem like "Look out" is going to be the tagline for the Supergirl movie, because as Superman and the like robots say at the end of the movie, she's been like going to planets with red suns, which red suns zap away their powers and make them just normal people, um, and getting drunk and doing drugs and just partying. And she shows up drunk, gets her dog, and leaves to go do some more of that. So that sets up a potentially very interesting storyline. What did you think of that little kind of like cameo and setup for the future, and like what are your thoughts on like where that may go?
Yeah, I thought it was a cool cameo. I think that it didn't feel overbearing, and I don't think it took away from the film. Supergirl popping up again, it implies that the universe is already established. One of the main comparisons, I forgot who said it, but apparently James Gunn said it himself, that he was heavily inspired by A New Hope making this film, which makes sense because immediately we're just kind of thrown into the world here. So Supergirl's just kind of popping up. It made sense for the world that James Gunn is trying to build, or just in general, all the filmmakers of DC are trying to build. So I thought that their inclusion was cool. I never read Women of Tomorrow, but based on what you're describing, based on just the ways that they can go with the story with Supergirl going to planets with red suns, I feel like that is a interesting just concept. And Clark and Kara's relationship is very interesting too, and how it's kind of just like very sibling esque, and Clark being look up and Kara being look out. I feel like that's a very interesting juxtaposition. So I'm interested for how they're going to do this. I think it could be very cool, and I feel like the casting is very cool as well.
Oh yeah, um, Millie Alcock, who played Rhaenyra in House of the Dragon, the younger version, and yeah, that's definitely some good casting there. And her costume looks great, and in the most recent poster, the costume's a little different. They clearly changed it a bit for the movie, for the upcoming movie. But yeah, I'm excited for that. For those that don't know, Supergirl is Superman's cousin, and kind of like, without spoiling potential storyline for the movie, her her like origin is that she grew up on Krypton and was a teenager when Superman was a baby. Um, and she was, in one version of her origin, also sent off the planet to go to Earth with um, baby Kal-El to raise him. Um, but they got split up, and she was essentially frozen in time. And then eventually, when she gets to Earth, she's the same age she was when Krypton blew up, whereas Superman is now like 30 years old. So, and at the end of this movie, you see that she's very young, where he's 30. So it seems like they may be
Right.
doing that storyline. There's also a version of her origin where she was on like different kind of like Kryptonian colony, and I don't know too much about that storyline to even talk about that. They could also do that, but I don't think they're going to do that because the version I just described is kind of like the more popular one that most people tend to do. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, the movie itself, Supergirl, is being written by Anna Noguera, who is also writing a Teen Titans movie. And recently, it was announced that she's writing the Wonder Woman movie. So I hope that James Gunn's
She got joints.
confidence, yeah, I hope that James Gunn's confidence in her writing is warranted. Because if Supergirl isn't a hit, the scripts are going to be written so fast for those movies. They're going to be rewritten so fast.
Right.
But I mean, if James Gunn likes this woman's writing so much that he's like, oh yeah, you should also write Supergirl, and oh yeah, you should also write Wonder Woman, then I want to trust him.
Right.
But kind of like sticking on
That I
that,
didn't know.
yeah,
But yeah.
kind of sticking on that same train. Um, let's talk about the message from Superman's parents from Krypton, Jor-El and Lara Zor-El, or Lara-El. Zor-El is Supergirl's last name. Um, but yeah,
Hmm.
I'm very curious to see where they're going to go with this. So in the movie, there's a message that Superman listens to from his parents, where they're like, we're sending you to Earth to keep you safe, and when you get there, you're gonna have these special powers. Use them to help and protect people. Um, and part of it's cut off, and then it's fixed by Lex Luthor and his people, and it turns out that they actually sent him there to like take over Earth. And James Gunn has doubled down saying that that is true 100%. And several times in the movies, you have characters that we trust confirm, like, yeah, this is true. It's no way they could have faked it. And I'm not sure how to feel about that because this isn't something that's not been
Hmm.
done before, but it's also not most people who read comics favorite version of the origin of Superman. They don't like when he's like, Omni Man. They don't like when he's like
Right.
a Saiyan, like Goku was originally sent to Earth to destroy or take over the planet. Like, not everybody's a fan of that.
Right.
It doesn't fully bother me, more so because I kind of want to trust where James Gunn's going with this and hope that ultimately it's going to be a very interesting and fun storyline. But it does beg the question, like, okay, does Kara know this? And if so, is she hiding it?
Hmm.
But is that maybe also why she's drowning herself in alcohol and drugs? Because she knows this and she's trying to like run from it and hide from it? That could be an interesting storyline.
Right.
Um uh
Yep.
this Yeah, what were your thoughts on that?
I thought it was a good narrative reveal. As far as in like the books, I don't know which writers have went that route with the narrative before, but I think it's interesting. And I think if written the right way, it can be a testament to Superman's kindness and his want to protect people even more. And I feel like with the characterization that James Gunn's trying to do of Superman, or the central conflict that he's trying to harp on with Superman is him being sent for a certain purpose, but him being on Earth contrasts with that purpose. Him having human experiences, human emotions, a human family, it contrasts with the purpose he was initially sent for. I feel like that conflict and that internal conflict is very interesting, and I feel like in the right hands, that can be handled very well, and it can be very just very. It can be thoughtful. It can be well done. I think it could lead to some very cool narrative writing. If done badly, I feel like it could become tired. It could be and it can ultimately mess with the character in a way that's very just not satisfying. Like it could be not satisfying doing that. But
Yeah. So
I feel like yeah.
funnily enough, they did the same thing recently in the current ongoing Superman cartoon, My Adventures with Superman. That in the
Mm,
second season, the story arc involved both Clark and Kara. And Kara working for being brainwashed by Brainiac to take over planets, and also being revealed that the like Kryptonians were very much like Saiyans, especially since that show is heavily takes a lot of inspiration from anime and Dragon Ball. They were like actual conquerors, and Brainiac is trying to like continue the legacy of Krypton and brainwashing Supergirl to continue to conquer. And um, it was a very interesting storyline that worked within the context of that show. And I'd be interested to see if they do something similar in the movies, especially if they involve Brainiac, because Brainiac has not been in a live action movie. It's time for that man to make his debut. He's one of
yeah,
Superman's premier villains, and he has not shown up yet. I have a feeling he will most likely be the villain of the second movie.
yeah. I would like to think so too. Because yeah, aside from like games, like aside from the games, aside from like television shows or cartoons, like he's never really made an appearance in a film. So I feel like Brainiac being a villain in a mainline Superman movie, that has to happen for sure. Um, yeah, I guess what is the overall discourse in regards to them going with that route for Superman? Is it just overall we don't want it to be changed? We don't want the characterization of Krypton to change because it would be derivative of a lot of modern soup type character takes? Like, is that the overall kind of argument that folks have right now?
Yeah, it is a matter of like I'm seeing it from the perspective of like a lot of very much like super comic book fans that I follow on Twitter, or just like even that I don't follow, that my Twitter timeline just points me towards, because that's mostly what I tend to interact with, of people like just not being a fan of that, for like you said, derivative of like evil Superman storylines that have been done to death, and people just don't want that to be perpetuated because they want this like good version of Superman that is hopeful, that is a good person to keep going, and for that to not be ruined. But like you said, it could, if done right, kind of aid that storyline and help show how him being raised on Earth by the Kents made him a good person. But also, there's a lot of people who just like his parents at the very least, not necessarily the planet of Krypton, but his parents from Krypton to be good people. Because I mean, the reason the planet blew up is because some other people on the planet weren't good people, um, and just didn't listen to the scientists who knew what they were talking about. Which also could be, that could also be a very interesting story, and very topical in terms of like climate
Right.
change and things like that. And there's a chance they do a bit of both, where like maybe his parents did send that message, but maybe they sent that message because they were being watched, and maybe the rest of the planet is full of like conquerors, but they aren't conquerors, or they don't want to be conquerors anymore. Like there's so many different directions it could go in, that I want to give James Gunn a benefit of the doubt that ultimately it's going to be a good story.
In regards to this film, I don't think that reveal for Superman's parents, I don't think that it robs Superman of being hopeful or being like a bright light. Like I don't think it robs him of that. I feel like yeah, it aids. So if they continue to like go down that narrative path, I feel like it could be interesting because I didn't get Omni Man or Homelander from this. I just didn't get that at all. I feel like the characterization they do of Superman here is just very like relentlessly hopeful. Just relentlessly hopeful and just very focused around good or the greater good. Um, Everyone talked about him saving a squirrel. Like he's just a very just a deeply thoughtful Superman. And I feel like him being who he is in the film alone is enough to kind of wipe away any Homelander comparisons or Omni Man comparisons. Yeah, I feel like it adds nuance to it. It's not just I am here to conquer planets because I feel like the character Clark here is just far too rich for it to be just he's Omni Man.
For sure.
Um,
But
so yeah, yeah,
I like to get your pain on like some of the other characters in the movie. Specifically, Lex Luthor, who is absolutely great in this. Nicholas Holt
yeah,
does an incredible job as Lex, and I especially like some of the little human moments we get from Lex. I think are really funny, where he like is like rubbing his employee shoulders during the first fight scene, where he's like ordering the Hammer Baravia on how to fight, or like when he gives the like
right,
that the like foreign leader a donut because he likes the donut so much he wanted him to try it. Like just those small
right,
moments of him being a normal person is like very funny to me.
right.
But like, what are your thoughts on Lex in this movie and Nicholas Holt's portrayal?
Um, but yeah, I thought he was great, and I think Nicholas Holt definitely understood the assignment. Like I think he was a full embodied character, and he genuinely believes he deserves it all, and he just can't fathom the idea that there's anyone more powerful than him, and it sends him into a spiral. Like he compares himself to like all of the thinkers and all of the innovators, and he's just like the fact that they're even mentioned in the same breath of me makes me want to gag. Like he nailed that sort of that's that want to deeply be appreciated, to deeply be loved. Like he captured that very well and in a very interesting and funny way. Like even like that line in the film where Clark's like, "Your obsession with me has become like very weird, like or it's become very unhealthy." Um, he nailed that aspect very well. Because yeah, he feels like a person. He's not just like comic book bad villain. You can genuinely see the emotional toll that Superman's existence has taken on him. Like it's a very it's
Yeah.
definitely fueled by envy,
Number one hater in
and
comics.
oh yeah, he's the hater. Like he's the master hater, and he just really he got that character down very well. Um, Overall, in regards to how Lex fits into the story, it's definitely a overarching motif of like brains versus brawn. Um, but I feel like Luther is kind of the brawn to an extent. Like I feel like Luther, like he has the resources and like just he can make a pocket universe and just do a lot of just like grand things, but he doesn't have any like willpower. He doesn't really have respect. A lot of the people that are around him due to fear of being put in a box. And I feel like the overall characterization with Lex was just very well done.
Yeah, they
Like I
made it
thought it was a
clear
very
that
good characterization.
he is a bad person. He shot an innocent person in front of
Yes.
Superman. He locked an ex in a box in a pocket dimension prison because she wrote an article about him or something like that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Lex is
Like
absolutely a
he's
bad
just a
person. But like sticking on
yes.
like
He's a
that,
deeply insecure person. Yeah.
yeah. But like rounding up like trinity of like kind of like lead characters. What are your thoughts on Lois Lane in this movie, played by was it Rachel Brosnahan?
Yeah. I thought that the characterization of Lois was great. I think that Rachel Brosnahan did a just a I think she was great too. Um I mean, of course, the first scene with Lois Lane introduced interviewing Superman, I thought that was a very cool way of seeing their dynamic, but also seeing how they're new to this. Like, even though the universe is established, um, Lois and Clark are clearly in a new territory, and things are starting to aim towards the serious. And it's a very just modern take on the relationship between Superman and Lois. Like I feel like it was a very modern take, and I feel like her character is just very just cool and well done. Um, yeah, in regards to the characterization of Lois, I thought that it worked, and I like the fact that she's just, I mean, just like characterization in like some of the cartoons or the comics, she just goes for things. Like she goes to the Hall of Justice and is just like, y'all need to help Superman. And because she's just has so much conviction and she's so focused and has so much intent, like they just listen to her. um, and I feel like that aspect of her character and that focus and that just deep intention, I feel like she captured that very well, and it definitely came across the in the film. Like I definitely got that aspect of her character in it.
Yeah, and that kind of assertiveness got Mr. Terrific to come and help her out, and Mr. Terrific was awesome in this movie. It was so great to see
Yes,
a somewhat lesser known character that I latched onto from the Just League Unlimited cartoon get his due. He was so awesome in this. How did you like Mr. Terrific, played by was it Eddie Gathegi?
yeah. I really enjoy Mr. Terrific. Of course, there's the metatextual aspect of all of us watching X Men First Class when we were kids and seeing Darwin get killed in like the first act of the
The guy
movie.
whose power is supposed to be
Uh,
that he can't die. He adapts to
exactly,
anything, and then immediately they kill him off, and he's the first one to die. He's the black dude.
exactly. And I feel like the metatextual aspect of him getting his shine playing this character, I thought that, like, of course, just from a meta perspective, that was very cool. But the character himself, I think he's just the aspect of him just being good at everything and just being Mr. Terrific. He's like, I'm Mr. Terrific.
He's like,
Like, do
I'm
you not
goddamn
know who
Mr.
I am?
Terrific.
Exactly. Like, he's just a. I really enjoyed his character a lot, and you alluded to it last week, but I thought that the oneer with him was great.
That fight seems so
I
good.
thought that that was a cool.
I've also been listening to
Yeah, I thought it was great.
that song 5 years time all week.
Yeah, which again, another trademark is just James Gunn needle drops, and I feel like there's a lot of good ones here.
Yeah,
It's
he
not
tries
Guardians
to
of the Galaxy like where he's
he tries to keep it low.
he
Like
he reins it in.
there's only like two actual big needle drops. One at the very end of the movie with Punk Rocker, and then that 5 years time one.
Right, like he's very intentional with the needle drops here, which yeah, I really enjoyed Mr. Terrific's character here.
Rumor has it that he's going to be getting a spinoff.
Yeah.
And I hope that
Really?
it is going to be an adaptation of the Terrifics comic, which was DC essentially trying to do their own Fantastic Four, led by Mr. Terrific. And the roster included another character that is featured in this movie, Metamorpho, as essentially kind of like the thing of the team. And then the remaining two members are Phantom Girl, who's kind of their invisible woman, who's this woman from another dimension who can like phase, but kind of like Kitty Pryde and like become intangible and go through walls and things like that. And then the final member being there in terms of power set, Mr. Fantastic, but in terms of personality, the Human Torch is Plastic Man, who is DC's premier stretchy guy, who Ben Schwartzman has been wanting to play him for years. And now's the time. If this Mr. Terrific show or movie ends up being an adaptation of The Terrifics, then Ben Schwartz wants to do it. He actively wants to do it, and he's so perfect for it. Because Plastic Man is very much a goofy character.
He's done Sonic, and now he's gonna do Plastic Man. I feel like that's a very cool progression of roles for Ben Schwartz. I feel like that. Yeah, that sounds cool.
There's also rumors of a Jimmy Olsen spinoff, and it's just been a recent rumor that happened as of today is that Gorilla Grodd will play a role in this spinoff, and that's interesting.
Jimmy,
yeah, because
yes, that is interesting.
I don't know if you saw any of the like advertising for this movie, but they did these like vlog style videos with Jimmy Olsen at the Daily Planet, and it made me.
Yeah, you told me, and they were like Office style.
Yeah, it made me want an Office style mockumentary, and I hope that's what the Jimmy Show is. But yeah, I also saw someone compare the average Jimmy Olsen storyline in the comics to an episode of the regular show, and that is very accurate. Because they always start off super mundane, but then they end with Jimmy fighting God and somehow winning. And I hope that is what this Jimmy Olsen show is. That it's a mockumentary, but Jimmy Olsen ended up encountering some wild stuff in Metropolis with like some supporting characters from the planet. But also, they made him a ladies' man in this. Reluctantly, it seems. Like he doesn't want the power that he holds. He's drowning in success. Like
he's just like, why do I have so much sauce?
Exactly.
I can't stand
He's like,
why?
What's happening? And then you see that with Eve Tessmacher, which is a character from the first Superman movie from '78. I from the beginning I was like, that's probably Miss Tessmacher. And it wasn't until the very end where they show her full name. It says Eve Tessmacher. And I was like, that's her. I knew it. And, you know, she's played off as this very ditzy, blonde model lady. And then at the very end, it turns out she is a very intelligent woman who was very strategically, like, using kind of Lex's, like, lesser thoughts on her to take pictures of documents and maps and things, just incriminating things that he has around his office that she's been in to... as kind of insurance or almost to like protect herself, and she sends that all to Jimmy and Lois, and that kind of leads into how, you know, Lex is eventually captured. And one of the like very brief but hilarious jokes for me was when he was getting shoved into the cop car and the dude yells, "Take his bald ass to Belle Reve," and I was like, you didn't have to do that to that man. You didn't have to call him bald.
I saw it with my pops, and he busted out laughing. I couldn't help it.
It was funny.
He was quoting it even after the theater.
Yeah, what is it? It was like that same week I saw it the first time. I was taking a shower and I was thinking about Superman, and I randomly just said out loud, "Take his bald ass to Belle Reve."
The way he said it was just so disapproving. He was like, man, ugh. It's just
That's
the
about to be
tone he said it was just
a meme used against bald people for the rest of time.
oh forever. Oh, SpongeBob, the SpongeBob movie, it's gotten dethroned. I think.
But yeah,
Yeah,
some great side characters in this movie, like you mentioned, the Justice Gang, as they're called here, but I'm soon eventually they'll be called the Justice League or something eventually. Um, I did want to briefly touch on like the hate that the movie's getting, which is very artificial, but it was
it's
predicted.
dumb. Like, I'm sorry.
It was predicted by Gunn based on the activity that the Snyder Cult has had online for years at this point. So he made a joke about it involving rage baiting monkeys employed by Lex Luthor, which results in haters on online being either called one of Lex's monkeys or Lex's burner accounts. So
Right.
he pretty much just set up that joke for everybody to just get called one of Lex's stooges, and that's why they're hating on Superman.
I didn't even I didn't even think about that from like a meta perspective. I didn't think about the monkeys being people in the Snyder Cult. That's funny. Yeah. Um, Media literacy, man. Like I don't even know where to start. From the start of this film, like just the frame by frame by frame analysis. It felt like I was in 2016 again, in like the worst possible way. Like it felt like just like peak Gamergate YouTube, and it was just like no film analysis of any like genuine critique, and it's almost this ethos of wanting films to be bad, and it almost kind of beckons this question of like, do y'all like anything? Like, why do y'all want things made by like crews of people that couldn't take care of their kids or probably missed certain recitals so they could be a key grip for this movie? Why do you want these films to fail? And I feel like the a lot of it was definitely based on like just like people that have a very strong allegiance to what Zack Snyder did. Um,
Which
and I feel
he
like
does
a
not
lot of it,
care for, Zack Snyder himself. He's like, please leave me
right?
alone. Stop associating my name with
Yeah,
these
he's like
people.
he's yeah, and it's like he's doing his own thing now. He's making the Rebel Moon joints and like making or like Army of the Dead. Like he's doing his own stuff right now.
And they're
So
not
it's
even
like
supporting that. They're
he
not supporting the things that the
right,
person they claim to love makes.
right, and it just feels very I feel like there are people that just really love the Snyder films and want them to get their due. Um, I feel like a lot of people in that camp got very weird, and it just became very alt righty and very anti woke in regards to a lot of the discourse. And I feel like that's with people
Yeah.
who are like deep Snyder fans and people that are outside of that are just alt right leaning and are calling the film woke because Superman cares about people.
And it is woke. And
Um,
woke isn't a bad thing. Like I'm
exactly.
tired of letting them take this word from us and make it a bad thing. Being woke is not a bad thing.
Right.
To be woke
It's
is to
like
be aware
being
of the
empath.
injustices of the world.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like being aware of injustice in the world or having empathy. It, it, for some reason, there's like, or not for some reason, this was designed this way for apathy to be ever present and empathy to be kind of just this fleeting thing. And Superman, or at least like with James Gunn, you can tell he's just like, I want to make a film that is just like unrelentingly kind, and like I feel like I'm butchering the line, but like kind is the new punk rock,
Yeah.
or like kindness is the new punk rock, like that phrase that's kind of going around after the film came out.
Yeah,
It's
Lois said that like he finds everyone that he meets beautiful. And he said maybe that's the new punk rock.
yeah, like in a lot of like early DC stuff, or like even like Joker, like a lot of folks that latch on to superhero films, not saying the majority or anything, but there's like a large chunk of people that latch on to nihilism, just want to see they just want to see things destroyed. And I feel like nihilism is definitely ever present, especially for folks that love things like the Joker or love the wrong aspects of the Dark Knight films and like made the Joker their entire personality. It's to watch a DC superhero film that's like being kind is a revolutionary act. I
Yeah.
feel like people don't know how to handle something that sincere.
It's great that this is
Like
where
it's so
the DC universe started, because
yeah,
somehow a universe that has always been so much more hope filled and positive than the Marvel universe became this super dark dour thing with the original DC extended universe. And now James Gunn being like, no, this is what it should be. Like the leads of this universe, Superman, Batman,
right.
Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, they should all be very hopeful. Like, yes, Batman is hopeful. That's his whole thing. His whole thing is that he's at night fighting because he
Yeah,
believes the world can be a better place and he wants it to be a better place. He's about justice, not vengeance, justice. He learns that. He starts off about vengeance, but it eventually becomes about justice. And yeah, having it
and
be like, yeah,
yeah,
no, we're
and
not about
yeah,
nihilism. Like the DC universe has always been a universe where and a lot of jokes have been made about it online where like the average citizen of the DC universe loves superheroes. The average citizen of the Marvel universe hates superheroes, especially mutants. Like,
yes.
and it's been the other way around in terms of live action movies, which is insane.
It's like so many of which is not a diss to the Snyder films because I think that there is some good in those movies. Maybe conversation for another day, but I do have a hot take that Zack Snyder is our George Lucas. But that's a very fast hot take. Um, Overall, thought that it was just a very sincere, fun superhero film, and I feel like it was very fitting for Superman. I think it's a cool start for the DC universe and what Gunn and company are trying to do. Um, Thought that the characterization was fun, and I think it's cool to have a mainstream character think that people are beautiful and think that life is beautiful and that is very life affirming and cares about like that's such a counter message from so much superhero media because I feel like the dark like I mean of course the Night trilogy like it's a lot of respect and those films are well made, but I feel like people saw those films and thought realism and grittiness equals quality, and I feel like these like Warner Brothers and a fair amount of superhero films dived into that so much where nihilism became ever present in anything that was remotely kind or sweet or genuine. It became kind of seen as saccharine and like very unrealistic or lame. Like kindness kind of became lame for superheroes, and I feel like that's a problem. And I feel like it's just very cool to see a superhero film where it's just very unrelentingly hopeful and just very human affirming and life affirming and affirming of the world. Um, 'Cause I feel like it's been a minute since we've had that, and yeah, I just feel like it's a fun sci-fi film that respects the audience. There's some on the nose moments like the monologue Superman has on the end, and you said that like I remember you mentioned it. It is a bit on the nose, but I feel like it's on the nose in a way that's necessary because yeah, it's a very kind film and a very loving film with a lot of heart, and the heart beats so loudly that even through all of his flaws, I can't help but appreciate it and like it
Yeah,
and just
and
greatly enjoy it.
its effects is already being seen online where we're seeing the opposite of these like alpha stuff that's being online and people like being like they want to be like Superman, and like I'm seeing tweets of people like using the picture of Superman laying back on the table and healing from the sunlight at the end of the movie and smiling, looking at the images of his parents on Earth, and using that and saying how it made them want to be a better man and things like that. And I'm like, yes, this is what Superman should be.
Yeah,
This is awesome. More of this,
right.
less of that other shit. But
Exactly.
to wrap things up, I definitely had some things I want to talk about in terms of criticism of like the few things that I didn't like and that I thought could have been
Hmm.
better. But we can save that for next time, where we will also be talking about Fantastic Four, because I'm gonna go see that tomorrow night. So we'll have our
Yeah.
spoiler-free discussion of that. Hey guys, Dijon here, solo for this section of the podcast for a spoiler-free and brief review of Fantastic Four First Steps. I watched this after we finished all the recording for this episode, so I decided to sit down myself, especially since I was the only person on the podcast who'd seen it, and just give you guys a very short review. Yeah, this, for me personally, is the first 10 out of 10 Marvel movie since Avengers Endgame. And I think a big part of that is due to the fact that this takes place in its own isolated universe, separate from the main MCU continuity. Therefore, free from the baggage of the MCU and the need to set up the next movie. Director Matt Shakman, who is an unapologetic comic nerd, he talks about it constantly, especially Jonathan Hickman's run on the Fantastic Four. He was able to just tell an incredible story because he could just focus on what the story needed to do and not anything else. And I think that's part of what makes this movie just a solid experience all around. There was not a single second that I wasn't entertained while watching this movie. The family of the Fantastic Four is just that, they're a family. You feel it. From the beginning, they are a family. Even before, they get their abilities, which isn't how it is usually in a lot of the adaptations. You don't really get to fully feel that family dynamic in any of the previous live action films before they get their abilities, or know that they were a family before they get their abilities. But this movie does a great job of showing just how close everyone is. What it also does a great job of doing that other adaptations haven't is making it clear that every single member of the Fantastic Four is smart in their own way. They are highly intelligent. It takes a lot to be an astronaut. So everybody on this mission has to be smart, not just Sue and Reed, but so does Ben Grimm, the Thing, and Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. And Johnny Storm especially has a flash of brilliance in this movie that ultimately, ends up being, a major component in how they defeat the bad guy, and it's awesome. And Johnny Storm, he's a standout for me. I know a lot of people were apprehensive about Joseph Quinn playing the Human Torch, but he was awesome. Johnny Storm's always been my favorite member of Fantastic Four. I think he's a fan favorite amongst most people. And he's very cool in this. And I love how often he flames on. He flames on so much. We are not spared any amount of flaming on from Johnny Storm, and it's awesome. We are unfortunately spared from seeing Mr. Fantastic use his powers too much, and that sucks. Invisible Woman, we see her as a decent bit, specifically the invisibility, because I think that's, in the grand scheme of visual effects, an easier one to do. So it's easy to have her just go invisible every now and again. But her force fields in this also take on a hint of invisibility, but they have this like refractory kind of rainbow effect that looks really cool, but does render her those force fields kind of hard to see sometimes, and I wish they were a little bit more visible, but the effect is cool. But I don't think we get to see her force fields specifically too often. And the Thing is the Thing, super strength, he's big, he's orange, he's made of rock, so we see that all the time. But we don't get to see Mr. Fantastic stretch as often as I would like. He does stretch, but he's not a weirdo. Mr. Fantastic is supposed to be a weirdo. I read recently, I don't know how true this is, it was just from a Twitter post, so they could just be, talking out of their ass, but I heard that the word fantastic essentially meant strange back in the 60s. So Mr. Fantastic taking on the name Mr. Fantastic was meant to be comparable with Ben Grimm going by the Thing. And, the team being called the Fantastic Four was essentially meant to be they're the strange four, the weird four, they're oddities. So Mr. Fantastic is supposed to be an oddity. He's supposed to be weird. And I don't think they make him as much of a weirdo when it comes to the use of his powers as he is in the comics. And I hope that's something that they change in the future. But in terms of characterization, period, he's great. I think he's the most understated. Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. He's a very, from my understanding, admittedly, I've not read a lot of Fantastic Four comics. I've only just started getting into them. He's pretty much a very kind of composite version of a lot of different versions of Reed. And he does a decent job. And I think he does a pretty good job. And we all know, I think Pedro Pascal is a great actor. He's been in so many great things recently. So we know he has, the potential to really do great with this character. And I think this is a good start. The standout in this film for me, I already said was Johnny, but I would say just behind him is Sue. Vanessa Kirby as Susan Storm is incredible. She is the heart of the team, as she should be. And in a lot of ways, she's the leader. She's the one calling the shots. Not Reed Richards like it is early in the comics, and how a lot of people tend to, assume simply due to the fact that he's a man. But yeah, no, she's the shot caller, in all honesty. And last but certainly not least, unfortunately, Ben Grimm the Thing is a bit underutilized. And part of that is due to the fact that it seems like they cut out some of his scenes, and that sucks. Um, it seems like because of the Eternals, they've learned the wrong lessons from why that movie didn't do as well as I wish it did. I personally love the Eternals, and have like started going out of their way to prevent movies from being over 2 hours long, and that sucks. Um, and a lot of stuff that was shown in the trailers were cut from this movie because of that, and a lot of the emotional moments with Ben seem to have been cut because of that, and that's unfortunate. He is still great in this movie. We just don't get as much of him as I wish we would have. Um, in terms of villains, of course, we have Galactus and Silver Surfer. Julia Garner as Silver Surfer is awesome. Also, the visual effects look perfectly fine and oftentimes great. People like to complain just to complain. She looks awesome. There's of course also a level of sexism there because it's Shala Ball, which in the comics is the original Silver Surfer, Norrin Rad, who's a man's wife. They made her the Silver Surfer in this universe, and people are upset about that. But to me, it's not that deep. She's awesome. She's great. Her fight sequences are so cool, and she's, I think, like Silver Surfer specifically is like the fastest character in the Marvel universe, and I'm a big fan of speedsters and speedy characters, and they really do showcase her speed in this in a very awesome way. It's really cool. And last but certainly not least, to wrap up this review, Galactus, Ralph Ineson playing Galactus, and they use his face. At one, they had him put on a costume to scan him to create that CGI character, and also there are some practical moments with him in suit, and it's awesome. He's great. Very imposing, not a cloud. You actually get to see him. He's shown to be powerful, and it takes a lot to do what they need to do. So that's my spoiler-free Fantastic Four First Steps review. You'll be getting a more detailed and I think still spoiler-free review in the next episode in 2 weeks. And then the week after that, Christian has seen it. We'll get into spoilers.